What's up, snappers? Welcome back to the channel. DREWSKY here. Today we're gonna be looking at the brand new card, Joaquin Torres Falcon II, to see if he's worth your precious resources. We're gonna be looking at his key Synergies Counters and some decks that I brewed for him. But wait, before we do that, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. I do weekly reviews of the brand new card in Marvel Snap, so if you don't want to miss out, hit that notification bell right now. Now let's get back into it. So now the question is, who is Joaquin Torres Falcon II? Let's take a look. So Falcon 2 is a 3-cost 4-power card with the ongoing ability of the on-reveal abilities of your 1-cost cards here happens twice. So I believe it's a very unique effect for balancing cards potentially, or repeating abilities, especially that are 1-cost. I think it has the potential to be very flexible in the meta. For him being a 3-cost, maybe Surfer. So there are some possibilities of him, and I am excited for it, and I hope you are as well. So now let's take a look at the pros and cons of Falcon 2. Let's take a look. So the first pro that I want to talk about is that 23 1-cost cards are available for Torres or Falcon 2, however you want to call them. There are a lot of options that are 1-cost on reveals specifically that can work with them. The more that pool of cards grow, then the value of him, goes up. The repeating abilities is usually strong in Marvel Snap. Look at cards like Absorbing Man, Wong, for example. Repeating abilities are usually a good thing in Marvel Snap. Maybe balancing them back to your hand and to repeat their ability. It's very, very strong in Marvel Snap. So he has ongoing combo potential. For example, using him with Mystique or juicing him up with Spectrum. There's some possibilities with him just because he's an ongoing card that it could bring value to him in the game. So the better that 1-cost cards get, his value increases, especially that they are on reveal cards. You have to make sure that they are on reveal cards. But yeah, the more that they come out, it brings up his value tremendously. So now let's talk about the cons about Falcon 2. Currently, there's not that many good 1-cost card options. I will explain later. But yeah, there's a very limited amount of pool of 1-cost cards that are on reveal that you can take advantage of. Another big negative about them is that it's a low power for a 3-cost card. 4 power is definitely less than average for this card. So you have to be very careful of if you're really depending on that power. But his power is basically really dependent on the 1-cost cards that you surround him with. Another big con about him is that dependent on combo and draw. So it really depends if you can draw these 1-cost cards or if you're doing a certain combo with him. It's going to be very dependent on your draw. And I took a look at the 1-cost cards that are on reveals, and unfortunately a lot of them are very underpowered. I would say on average it's 2 powers. So for example, like the cards that you combine with him, that lane is not going to be that great, or depending on how you build the deck, a lot of the cards that you have in your deck are going to be very low powered. All right, now let's take a look at the key synergies and counters for Falcon 2. Let's take a look. So the first card I want to talk about is Korg. You definitely can repeat Korg's ability, 1-cost on reveal. Getting more and more rocks to your opponent's deck is really good. So definitely pair up Korg with Falcon 2. Iceman is another great synergy. Throwing that 1-cost damage to your opponent's hand, they're gonna hate you, but you're gonna be thriving with that card, that combo, and then making sure to slow down your opponent. Falcon is another great synergy. Of course, they are paired up together just like in the lore and in the movies. Falcon returning those 1-cost cards to your hand. You can repeat those abilities on the Torres lane. So the combo potential there is insane. So now let's talk about the counters. Enchantress, Torres, or Falcon 2 is an ongoing card. Of course, Enchantress can counter that card. I know it's not really being played a lot in the meta, but again, Enchantress can counter these ongoing cards. Red Guardian, again, is another pick because he's a lower cost card that can tech against Torres. So yeah, definitely that is another counter as well. Killmonger is a counter for the 1-cost cards that are with Torres. It's not really a direct counter for him, but again, it's for the surrounding cards around him. All right, so now let's take a look at the 1-cost cards that are on reveal that work well with Falcon 2. Let's take a look. So we have the Hood. Again, getting another demon is great. Iceman, I mentioned him before, works well with Torres. Iron Fist, if you want to bounce a card multiple times, if you put Iron Fist in his lane, then you can potentially bounce a card multiple times, which is great. Korg, like I mentioned before, adding rocks to your opponent's deck, adding tons of rocks. You combine them two together, definitely is very disruptive. Maria Hill can be another option for Torres. Getting another card, or a 2-cost card, I should say, is very valuable. Rocket Raccoon has synergy with Torres as well. If you can predict them playing in that lane, maybe you could force them to play in the Torres lane. But yeah, Rocket Raccoon can get some value there as well. Blade, if you play Blade on Torres, you could get extra discarding, which is awesome for discard, so he can potentially fit there as well. America Chavez, if you want to get more additional +2 power with Torres, there is synergy right there as well. Silver Sable, stealing power, you can trigger it multiple times with the Torres lane, so definitely is a great synergy right there. And then for Mill, Yondu playing on the Torres lane can be very, very disruptive. So again, you can repeat the process of just milling your opponent's deck. All right, now let's take a look at some other cards that fit with Torres. So there are cards like Zabu. If you want to repeat the discount in energy with Zabu, you definitely run Zabu with Torres. Nico Minaru, if you want to repeat the spell, potentially, you can run it with Torres. I think that is a great pairing right there. Celine, I know she's not really played in the meta, but if you want to inflict negative damage to your opponent, you definitely do it multiple times with him. So now let's take a look at the decks that I brewed. I think they're pretty fun and competitive. Let's take a look. So the first deck is called Iron Torres Bounce. So the objective of this list is to play as much low cost cards as possible, bounce them back to your hand, and then play them back out on the board. So for turn 1, the hood is fine to be played on curve. You definitely want to have either Falcon or Beast or even Toxin in your hand to make sure you bounce that hood back. You definitely don't want to leave that -3 on the board. Silver Sable and Hawkeye Rocket Raccoon are awesome additions to this list. It being played on turn 1 is totally fine as well. Really depends if you want to predict with Rocket Raccoon or if you want to set up a lane with Hawkeye. But I feel like these 1-cost cards synergize very well with Torres. Toxin, Black Swan, Falcon, Agent Venom on turn 2 are awesome options if you want to bounce back cards from your list. But more than likely, you probably want to save those cards for the later turns. Black Swan is probably the preferred option to be played on curve just because you want to set up her lane and then activate her on turn 5. Agent Venom, it really depends on your hand and your draw. If you have cards that are like 1 cost in your deck that you haven't drawn, then Agent Venom is a great on-curve play. Hey Monkey, definitely want to save for the later turns. Definitely want to have that burst of energy with Black Swan and all the 1-cost cards, so definitely save Him Monkey usually for the later turns. Joaquin Torres Falcon II is a perfect on-curve play for this deck because you want to set up his lane and then start throwing those 1-cost cards in his lane and then get all the value there and then potentially bounce all those cards back with Falcon. Beast is another option just to start bouncing other cards back from this list. You could bounce back even Toxin or Falcon. It really depends on your board state, but having 3 bounce options I think is very valuable in this list. And then for Iron Man, of course, he just straight up wins lanes. He's a great finisher if you want to finish him off with him or a 1-cost card. All right, now let's take a look at my second list. So this list is called Torres Movers. This is my take on the bounce move style list. The objective of this list is to play as much low cost cards, start moving your cards, and then reap all the power generation that you get from all these small cost cards. So for turn 1, Aranya or Human Torch are great options to start setting up the combos. Ghost Spider is a great follow-up for Human Torch if you need to start moving the Human Torch. Iron Fist could be played on curve as well, just to start setting up Human Torch or Dagger or even Vulture. So Nico Minaru's value here is for her +2 spell or to move a card to the right. Dagger definitely can be played on curve. It really depends on the combo that you're setting up with Dagger. You definitely want to start moving her with either Iron Fist or Ghost Spider. Madam Web on turn 2 is great to be played on curve. You want to definitely play her in a lane where you can move your cards to her lane and then move those cards out with her ability. Doctor Strange is awesome to move cards like Dagger, Torch, Vulture to Madam Web's lane. Falcon is used to bounce cards back like Human Torch, Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, and even Nico Minaru, you could repeat their abilities. Frigga is using this list to copy cards like Human Torch or Dagger. Really depends on how big you can get them with all the movement, but you definitely want to copy the cards once they're really big on power. And then of course we have Torres Falcon II. You definitely can run them in a certain lane. Make sure to run your 1-cost cards like Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, or even Nico Minaru in his lane, and then reap all the benefits of having the ability repeated. You're gonna have tons of movement with this list with Falcon. All right, now let's take a look at my third and final list. So this list is called Torres DarkRocks. This is my take on a Darkhawk list. So the objective of this list is to create as much disruption as possible with the rocks and throw down a bunch of power on your opponent. So for turn 1, Korg, Zabu, Hydra Bob are awesome options to be played on curve. Definitely use Korg to start the disruption, Zabu for discounting cards like Rock Slide, Ares, or Cold Obsidian, and Hydra Bob just has value with that 4 power. Iron Patriot, you definitely want to play him on curve because you can follow him up with Juggernaut or Rocket Raccoon, or even Torres. Cassandra Nova is a flex option here, but she is amazing against Arishem. Arishem is becoming very popular at the moment, so Cassandra Nova is an awesome option. Rocket Raccoon and Groot, like I mentioned, is a great pairing with Iron Patriot. Playing them on the same lane, you definitely steal some power and potentially win that lane with Iron Patriot. So Torres definitely should be played on curve. You can pair him up with Korg, Zabu, and reap all the benefits from them. Rock Slide, of course, should be paired up with Korg and Darkhawk. That trio is inseparable. So Ares is a flex option here. You can either sub him out for Mystique, but he's pretty much used here just to power slam against your opponent. Cold Obsidian is awesome in this list, especially having Korg, Zabu, and Hydra Bob on the board. You can definitely play him there. Darkhawk, of course, is the amazing finisher here, especially adding as much rocks as possible to your opponent. Having that combination with Falcon 2 with Korg, you're gonna have tons of rocks, and then Darkhawk is gonna have huge value here. All right, now let's take a look at the spotlights that are featured with Torres. Let's take a look. So Torres is with Makari and Nomura. Torres is a Series 5 card, Makari is a Series 5 card, and Nomura is Series 5. So I believe Makari is definitely worth skipping. She's really living only in Silver Surfer list. So if you like Silver Surfer, then totally go for her. But I would say she's very niche and isn't really used that much. So I definitely think she's definitely passable. So for Nomura, I would say she's definitely worth getting. If you like that type of archetype, definitely go get her. If you're interested in that archetype, then definitely pick her up. But I would say more or less, it really depends. If you're low on resources, definitely pass her. But I think she's a pretty fun card. So for all the Spotlight variants, I am not really big on any of them. I would say most of them are a pass. But again, art is subjective. If you like that style of art, then totally go get it. But I'm not a fan of any of these, unfortunately. So remember, guys, to have 4 keys before opening in a week. If you're interested in getting a brand new card, definitely have 4 keys before opening. All right, now let's take a look at my star ratings for Torres. Let's take a look. So for competitive, I gave him a 3.5 stars. I believe he has the potential of being good, but it really depends on those 1-cost on reveal cards, right? The cards that you surround him with, it really brings up his value. For fun, I gave him a 4 stars. I believe repeating abilities is fun in Marvel Snap. So again, it's very subjective. It really depends if you enjoy it, but I believe 4 stars is fair for him. Flexibility, 3.5 stars. You could tell by the decks that I built, he can fit in a lot of different shells or archetypes. So it really depends on how well he does. But again, eventually he'll find a home, but I think his flexibility is pretty good for his ability. For future changes, I gave him a 3 stars. I believe his power is kind of weak. So maybe in the future, if he seems weak, maybe they bump him up to a 3-5. Really depends on how well he does. But again, Second Dinner hasn't been really changing a lot of new cards, or haven't been really buffing a lot of new cards. So we'll see. It really depends on how he performs. All right, so now let's look at my final review of Joaquin Torres Falcon II to see if he's worth a snapper skip. Let's take a look. So I say snap on him. I believe he has potential to be good. He's very flexible. It really depends on those 1-cost on reveal cards. Hopefully we get more in the future. I believe his future is bright. He's kind of very similar to Moonstone in a way, where it really depends on the cards that you surround him with, right? So I believe his deck building potential is there. I like the style of lists. I'm a huge bounce enjoyer, or I'm a huge enjoyer of just move or flexibility of archetypes. So he's kind of like in my wheelhouse, and I hope you enjoy him as well. So let me know your thoughts on Torres. Am I wrong? Am I missing any decks or any synergies or even some counters for him? Let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, please like the video, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build out this amazing community here on YouTube, and I would love for you to be a part of it. And I'll see you guys on the next Snapper Skip. Happy snapping.